Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for the support you've been showing me and keep doing it. In today's video, I will be talking about the last in the Scrum Processes series, that is the retrospective. Now, before we dive deep into it, let me walk you through the agenda. So firstly, what is a retrospective? What are the team roles in this meeting? And what are the common mistakes I have noticed people make? First, let's talk about retrospective as is. What does retrospective mean? By definition, it just means you look back at past events or a past occurrence and see, okay, what happened, and you just analyze it, right? It's pretty much the same thing, but in the context of Scrum, we call it a sprint retrospective. Now, why sprint? Because sprint is like the heart of the Scrum process, right? Heart. Well, a retrospective here gives us the opportunity to look back at our 2 week sprint and see how we did, how can we improve, we can analyze it, and we come up with a plan to improve it. And please note, this happens every 2 weeks. And the reason for this is you can just work on 2 week sprints, right? You work on it, achieve a sprint goal, next 2 weeks, next sprint goal, next 2 weeks, on and on and on. But how do you know each one is better than the previous, right? You should always look at improving yourself. This is where you analyze it, as I said, right? You inspect yourself in this meeting. What do you talk about in the retrospective? There are different ways of doing a retrospective meeting, but these are pretty much the 3 topics you tend to cover. You talk about what went well, you talk about what did not go so well, and you talk about what can be improved. Now, the reason we talk about these 3 things is it's always good to acknowledge the positive, acknowledge the negative, but what is most important is you see how you can improve on that negative so that 2, 3, 4 sprints down the line, that becomes your positive. And another question that people ask me a lot is, well, what do you talk about in this retrospective part? Do you just talk about sprint and Scrum? Well, yes and no. You do talk about sprints, you do talk about Scrum, but you also talk about the tasks that you all worked on. You can talk about people or office. The team roles here are very simple, so I will just brush through them. As a product owner and as a dev team or as any participant of the Scrum process, you guys are active participants. And the person facilitating and driving this meeting is your Scrum Master. She or he prepares the meeting in advance and comes and conducts the retrospective, facilitates all the discussions, comes up together with the team with action items, and also is kind of the one who follows up on it. Pretty simple, so I will just move on. At the common mistakes. So here I wanted to spend some time. First common mistake is retrospectives not happening. And this, a lot of people tell me, well, we don't really have anything to talk about, so why have this meeting? Well, I would like to quote a line from Black Panther, something Shuri said, just because something works, it doesn't mean it can't be improved, right? And that is basically what retrospectives are about. You don't really have to have it because there's a problem. It's okay if you think things are going really well in your team, great, talk about the positives. But do have this meeting because there's always something you can improve upon. If there are no problems, it's a great time to inspect your processes and see how can we improve the process. The whole team does not participate. This is another problem. You have people saying, hey, I have another meeting that's more important, or I'm on half day today, or I'm on vacation. I would strongly suggest postpone this in that case. Ideally, do not plan meetings during retrospectives because we want the whole reason for following Scrum is all these meetings are pre-planned. You know the date, you know the time well in advance. So first thing, I would request you not to plan something in that time, but things don't happen the way we want it. So if you do have some reason why your team can't participate, push this meeting by a day, but do it when your entire team participates, because it's a team activity. And it's very important that the whole team is there to listen to all the topics that come up. Not talking about positives. So this is kind of linked to my first point, as I said. People don't have it because you usually think retrospectives are to talk about problems. So you emphasize more on that. But always talking about positives is, talking about positives is always important. I would just like to share like one tip with you here. Something that I have seen work in my teams is at the end of every retrospective, we kind of do a shout out round where we, as a team, compliment one person for something that he or she did during that week. Just acknowledge their efforts. Hey, I would like to thank you for having that workshop with us. I don't know, anything that fits your team, but just give a small shout out because it's nice to be acknowledged and it kind of gives that person a small boost. Not following up on previous retrospective items is also a very, very important thing, because when we do a retrospective, we come up with action items on how can we improve. It's very important to follow through on that. Otherwise, there is no point of even writing that down, right? Look back at your previous retrospective. Just see, hey, are we done with this? Yes, no, if not, add that to the current retrospectives action item and then push that person to follow up and to address that action item. Very, very important. And well, I will share 2 points at this point because I feel they're interconnected. Is points discussed within this team are not kept confidential. As a result, not ensuring that the retrospective, the retrospective thus does not become a safe place. So I will talk about these two together in terms of when we discuss a retrospective, unless there is an action item to talk about that point ahead. For example, if one of the action items is, I feel I'm not getting enough support from my manager, who is not part of this retrospective. But as an action item, if we discuss that, hey, do you think a one-on-one with your manager will help where we address this problem? Only then is the scrum master allowed to take it forward, or the person who's put his point. Those are the only two people who can take points ahead after it has been discussed and accepted by everybody that you will follow up on this point. Then I go to the manager and I'm like, hey, we need to set up a call. XYZ person needs to talk to you. Let me know it's a good time. Done. Step back. But it is not okay for another member to go ahead and say, you know what? He has a problem with his manager and yada, yada, yada. And well, just no. Okay. This is not that kind of a meeting. You do not use the information shared here as a chance to gossip. Because that just does not make this a safe place. And people discuss points here because they trust each one another. And that's why I've said, right, retrospective is a safe space. And the safety of the space does not just fall on the Scrum Master. It falls on every single member of the retrospective, of the team, to make sure that the information said in this meeting stays in that meeting. Then taking things personally, this is, I know, very, very hard for people not to do, but it is very important. And this goes both ways. You basically want to share in the retrospective that I feel I did not get the support that I needed. Give it in a more constructive criticism way. Hey, I think I understand you were quite busy in the sprint, but it would have helped me if you had given me some personal time because I felt that was lacking in this sprint. So you have given it in a way that does not personally offend the person. At the same time, as a team lead, you should not take it personally. You need to understand that this feedback is coming from your teammates, and it is very, very important so that you guys can grow as a team. So take it positively and give it in a constructive way. Do not use this meeting as a place to take out your personal vendettas against people. This is not the meeting to do that. Coming to the last point, not taking the retrospective seriously. This is another problem I've noticed sometimes. So I would just want to mention it here is don't just take this meeting as a joke or just don't do it for the sake of doing it. Understand the purpose of it and take action items seriously. Take all the points that were discussed in this meeting seriously, not personally, because this is basically for the betterment of your entire team. And in a way, it is used for a betterment to make you better. So please take these meetings seriously. And with that, I would like to conclude this presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And I would really want to thank you for showing me all the support throughout this series. It has been a pleasure. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. Bye.